Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I am back to share with you another exciting presentation. We're switching gears from AWS to modernizing massive applications with high velocity. I have the pleasure of introducing you to Saral Sukumar. Saral is a results-driven engineer leader and has a proven track record in building and delivering complex products and solutions at scale, particularly in e-commerce, SEO, and social networking domains. They excel at forming high-performance teams, driving flawless execution, and spearheading technology transformation initiatives. Saral is passionate about utilizing technology for innovation and exceptional results, focusing on forward-thinking strategies and leading impactful teams. Dedicated to promoting diversity and inclusion, Saral is known for initiating organization-wide efforts. They have organized events like Hour of Code and Girls Who Code for elementary school students, fostering a diverse tech community. Thanks so much for being here, Saral. I'm super excited to hear your presentation.
Thank you. Hello all. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm Saral Sukumar, Director of Engineering at eBay. Uh, I have over 15 plus years of experience in the industry. I have started my career as a software engineer in a startup where we were actually building a social networking engine, actually competing with Facebook. Then it's more about how we can build a social networking engine for corporate companies. Then I got married, moved to US, again started as a software engineer at eBay, then growing to a leadership role. Now I lead a team of engineers who are responsible for a critical application at eBay. As Magna introduced me, I'm passionate about leveraging technology to its best to drive innovation and achieving outstanding results. Today, I'm going to talk about how we modernized a massive application at eBay, what is the strategy we took, and how we unlocked the velocity and also enable the developers with high productivity. So that is what we are going to talk about. Uh, Before go on and talk about how we really approached it, I'm going to give a little bit of a background. What was the problem we had at hand? As I said, it was a critical application, very sensitive. And again, those of you who do not know, eBay is a very huge e-commerce marketplace. So our scale is really, really high. We're talking about an application for a particular platform. In a given day, we receive around 250 million hits. This is just one platform. So my team supports three different platforms. Again, the platform, what I mean here is the experiences like desktop, mobile web, and a native application. So in order to serve these different platforms, we have different code bases. And all these different code bases are actually built in different times. The desktop is the oldest legacy application, which actually got built 10 years ago. And mobile web was relatively new, and native application is kind of in its like modern stack. Um, but all these three code bases together powers the application of eBay. And since all these applications are in a different generation, we have always had a problem of managing these tech stacks with different generation. And also the business logic was actually distributed. Any change required to be built in three different places, again, three times of the effort. Every generation of software had its own way of pushing the changes to production. The old legacy application for desktop took like 30 days, whereas the mobile web was 15 days. Again, native was around a month again. So it was very challenging for us to enable any feature or enable any change to the customer. So the time to market for any change was really high. And also, I talked about these fragmentness of the tech stack, and also I talked about the distributed business logic. Hence, for a developer, it was a lot of a context switch in order to enable a change or in order to implement a feature. They have to actually hop into these different code bases, learn these legacy stacks, and older technologies. It was not fun at all. It was not exciting, and also all those legacy stacks lacked a proper documentation. The use cases were not properly documented. The test cases were not written fully, and also the automation was not 100%. So there were a lot of manual steps in between, and also we did not have any sophisticated pipeline to push this change to production. So these are all the problems at hand, and this application is very massive and it's very critical and it's very sensitive. How are we going to really, modernize the stack or migrate this code base, which is super legacy, no documentation whatsoever, and we do not know all the use cases, and we cannot hurt our business in while actually we are migrating this application. So traditionally, or all the industry players would have actually taken this massive application, wrote it for multiple years, and then slowly started replacing the old code base with the new code base. So that's how even at eBay our prior migrations were happened. But with the past learning and stuff, we felt like, hey, sitting on a migration for multiple years doesn't really make sense. How we can progressively unlock this migration, how we can really go about iterating on a migration. When we were first looked at it, it was not really looking like a feasible thing because it's a monolith. It's really complex and it is really cohesive and coupled together. So what we did was we came up with a progressive strategy. So it was a page and it has logical units. So how we can actually group these logical units together, we called it as a modules. So we started grouping these logical units as modules, and then started having a plan how we can migrate these modules step by steps into the new stack. So in this picture, whatever you are seeing, the blue boxes represents the older stack, the legacy stack, and the green boxes represents the newer stack, which is based off Node.js and Java. So what we did was we took one module, we rewrote it in the newer stack, and rewriting wasn't easy even at a module level because we did not have any documentation, as I said before, and we did not have any use cases written. So we had to actually read code, and also these code, remember, it's all fragmented. The business logic is distributed, so we have to read multiple files, multiple code bases, even multiple languages. To collect the use cases and then carefully come up with a design and translate them into code. And again, the new stack is actually Node.js and Java based, so we have to rewrite it in that technology. And once the code is ready, once the module is ready, we make sure it actually goes through a pipeline, an integrated pipeline, which enables continuous integration and delivery and deployment for us. So we build that pipeline as well as part of this project. So as soon as that module is ready, we were able to deploy that to production. So the underlying data to power this page remains same. We did not want too many variables in this migration. Hence, we just made sure that the underlying data is kind of available to the newer stack as well as the older stack. As soon as we migrated the module, we actually put it on the site and we did A/B testing. Those of you who do not know what is A/B testing is, A is the legacy stack and B is the newer stack, and we send like 10% of traffic to each and kind of compare our key metrics. Key metric can be engagement, key metric can be business, or it can be even site speed as well. So we analyze all these different areas of metrics and make sure it is comparable, or at least it is comparable or better, right? Because we don't want to hurt the business while doing a migration. And also the constraint was nothing changes for the user. As long as the user is able to make sure they are able to purchase, then we are good. So we once we enable this first module after our first success A/B test, we kind of created the playbook and applied that to other modules. Again, the playbook also evolved as we progressed with our strategy or as we progressed with our other modules. Most of the things we learned in our first module kind of helped, but certain things we also learned along the way and course corrected our plan. For example, with the first module, we actually written a lot of documentation. We documented every use case. We documented every changes we came across. But then in no time, we realized that those are all going to get stale, and how we can better document this, how we can actually reverse engineer this whole process, how we can capture this use case in a programmatical way. So we mirrored some actions from the production, we mirrored some data from the production, we captured those use cases and started reverse engineering using test driven development. So that is kind of happened as we learned with couple of modules. Similarly, we not all the A/B tests were actually neutral or positive in the first get go, because due to bugs or due to missed use cases and stuff. So we had to actually refine and refine the new stack until we get the results to a comparable state. So we just kept applying these uh, migration as in parallel. So first we started off handful of modules, then we expanded to multiple modules in parallel, and then we completed the whole page. But the beauty of this whole progressive strategy approach is, as soon as we launched the first module, we were able to unlock the velocity, because the newer module on a newer stack, all the successive development and features, all the engineers were able to start contributing to the newer code base. Similarly, they were able to enjoy the goodness of the sophisticated release pipeline. And also, we were able to enhance the deployment frequency with the newer release pipeline. So the time to market was really high. And also, the developers were able to uh, code on a newer stack. Similarly, they were able to code in one place and enable the feature in three different platforms. Basically, if there is a feature which is like pertaining to three different platforms like desktop, mobile web, and native, we just code in one place and used some templates and configurations to enable in different um, platforms and markets. So hence we were able to really achieve a higher velocity, but by reducing the effort involved to develop a feature. And while we were doing all this, our focus remained, or our goals remained the same, in terms of delivering velocity. Delivering velocity was a key metric for us. So when I was talking about like, hey, we were started analyzing the problem statement, we started collecting the inputs on various pain points. But one of the biggest pain point stood away was any change required long time to push to production, right? A change in one particular platform took a month to deliver. And also we were trying to understand what would be the industry standard and how we can drive these metrics, what could be our objective, or what could be our outcome which can be measured out of this migration. So we went with four key metrics. Again, these are all around velocity. We did also have like few other goals as part of this project, but for this particular presentation, I'm actually going to focus more on like how we had the goal around velocity metrics and how we were able to progress around it. So the first metric which we were actually going after was lead time to change. The lead time to change metric is nothing but time taken between for a developer to raise a pull request to a developer to publish the change to production. So the time taken between these is what is called lead time for change. Um, Earlier to this migration or the modernization, it took 18 days. But after this modernization, it just like couple of days. What really made the difference was our the release pipeline, and also our granular way to enable the change. So basically, earlier it used to be like, hey, in order to enable a user story, you have to make sure everything is built and you have to make sure the feature is fully complete and then fully tested and fully end-to-end rigorous, then only it goes to production. But with the lead time for change in mind and smaller changes and smaller commits in mind, the changes are actually made very granular. We had created a pipeline which can enable us to incrementally push changes to production behind a config. So a developer can actually create smaller PRs as small as like one line of a change behind a configuration system, and then push it to production. Once all the changes related to a particular feature are performed, we enable that config and then enable that feature to production. So we came all the way from 18 days to 1.5 days. Similarly, deployment frequency, we had like a very waterfall model of deploying changes to production. Again, the deployment process had a lot of manual steps in it. We actually had like multiple teams involved to actually certify a change. And since it was manual, we had to really create a data to test it, and also we have to have like manual sign-offs, and so on and so forth. It's actually a big checklist which was manually performed, and which had like a lot of prone to human errors and stuff like that. But once we built this like integrated pipeline, it became very seamless. Any change, just click of a button, it just like boom goes to production. And of course, yes, there are a lot of checks and balances in between, right? Once you issue a PR, and even if before you issuing a PR, we do perform a lot of integrated tests in the developer machine, and then you issue a PR. And again, our pre-build checklist goes on. We kind of handpick some P1, P2 test cases, and then we perform that test and run those tests before you merge the PR itself. Once you merge the PR, again, our bigger pipeline runs to make sure all the functional tests are done, all the unit tests are done, and all the integration tests are done. We do actually run LNP as part of the pipeline, as well as site speed as part of the pipeline. And everything just happens magically within hours. So that's the whole beauty of this, right? We made it so light, these things can happen within fraction of seconds. And also we made it so light, the build time actually takes like minutes from hours. Hence we were able to achieve the goal of deploying our bills multiple times a day. So as soon as you issue a PR, it just boom goes to production. Again, the change failure rate and mean time to restore are also the key metrics when it comes to measure the availability of application in production. And there also we maintain our elite status, and also we've improved the mean time to restore from 16 hours to 5 hours. Again, we keep improving these things. We keep like investing on these changes. But the lesson is like how you can really unlock velocity, thus by how you can really improve the and developer productivity as well. So, as a recap, what I would like to touch upon is um, you need not really deal with these massive migrations at a whole. Always a problem as a whole might look bigger, but find a way to logically split them and deal with them in a smaller portion, then you will be able to get a breakthrough. And also all these migrations are multiple years. You will learn a lot because many things changes. When we started this migration, uh, we had a lot of plans. We had like a solid execution plan. We thought that we are going to stick to that plan and execute on it for 2 years, but within 6 months we learned a lot. Within 6 months of time, we were able to understand, hey, we may need to parallelize more, and we need not really spend a lot of time documenting things, or we may need to run multiple A/B tests, and also we may need to increase traffic so that we can learn faster. So these are all the learnings as we went into this project execution. We learned and we course corrected, and we stayed very open and also very flexible, because we all along we kind of knew that the change is going to make our execution plan better, right? And also wherever possible, we utilize the opportunity to optimize the code. We made sure that we always stayed around our guiding principle, principles, like keep it simple, keep it nimble, and keep it more maintainable and testable. So that always, like, we were connected always back to our guiding principles and objectives. And also all along the way we were measuring our velocity metrics. The first module which we delivered actually had the outcomes or the after the effect which I am talking about. So which means within just like 3 months into this project, though the end completion of this migration was 2 years, but within 3 months into this project, we were able to unlock the velocity, and incrementally we were able to migrate those modules. Hence, the velocity kept going. Similarly, we were able to reduce the effort involved to enable a feature, because we were able to write once and then do enable that feature in three platforms wherever it was applicable. So that was the greater learning we had as a team, how to be open, how to be like, uh, course correct or learn and keep that feedback loop open, as we enter into a projects like this, which is going to take like multiple years. How to stay really perseverance and apply your perseverance until you get your goals. So with that, I'm going to actually open it up for Q&A. And I do also have this this blog written in my LinkedIn. So if you want to understand about the architecture and stuff, you can actually go and read the blog. It has like more logical block diagrams where you can understand how we introduce the facade, how the data was actually shared between the newer stack and the legacy stack, and how we were able to incrementally migrate modules one by one while serving two stacks into picture in a critical application.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for that presentation. It's really interesting. eBay is a site we all know, and you don't really think, and it's just been around forever since I was a kid, right? And you don't think about everything that it has to go through to stay evolving in modern times. Uh, I believe here, we have a request to share the link to your blog, and I don't know if that we can do it in the chat. I can't type in the chat, but I wondered if you could share the name of your blog again with the audience.
Sure, yeah, I can get that.
Okay, perfect. And if anyone has any questions, I'd be really excited to hear. I guess I would be curious, like if there was like one main takeaway, like for an insight or tips for developers who are about to like start this similar journey of modernizing their own applications with legacy code, what would be the main takeaways? If you cover some of the strategies that you went over in eBay, but just like where should they start? What bigger things should they be thinking about?
So basically, when we were actually started thinking of modernizing this application, especially this is very massive. You cannot really imagine the scale what I'm talking about here. And also, the code was actually 10 years old. A lot of iteration went in, a lot of code hardening went in, a lot of changes went in, and also a lot of bug fixes went in. Right. So over a period, this code became really convoluted and also like became complex, but without any documentation. So we definitely spent quite some time to understand the complexity of the system and also understand what we were trying to really solve. Right? There are many ways you can attack this migration. Or though we wanted to get into a new stack, we did actually have our guiding principle. We did have our objectives, and we always trying to measure our outcomes with metrics, right? So that we kind of stay in our path. The another key takeaway I would say is, don't really deal with a complexity at a whole. Try to break that up. That's the whole key takeaway I would say with our execution. The minute we were able to come up with this progressive execution strategy, it became very, very easy for us to migrate, because we already started enabling the developers to start code on the newer stack, though the migration is not complete. When we were in like we were just 10% into migration, we were able to enable the engineers to code on the newer stack. So that would be my key takeaway. How quickly you can unlock your goals, have a plan around it, and go after that.
Yeah, I think making a plan is always seems like the best place to start. I have a couple of questions, and there is one in the chat as well. But it seems like you kind of pioneered this process for yourself. Are there any documentations or kind of lists or checklists or resources that say someone's working on a team that doesn't have all of the headspace and all of the intellect that eBay has, right? It's a really big team. Like, is there you didn't know what to look for, but you figured it out. Is there some resource that our members could use to help them figure this out as well?
We have just highlighted some of the things in our blog, the technical blog which we have written. Again, when it comes to tooling, right, it's going to differ for teams, and also again, eBay is an established company, and we already have some standard operating procedures in place. But the key takeaway is, especially we did this project during pandemic, by the way.
Okay.
We did not had our drawing boards, or we did not have our in-person collaborations. What helped us is, like, we brainstormed a lot, we actually documented a lot, and also we used that agile practices to track our progress, right? So however big or the smaller team is, you have to make sure you establish a simple process which is being followed as a discipline with your teams, and then kind of evolve around it.
Okay.
So it was actually, this whole project was done by multiple engineers across the globe, who are actually not co-located, but we were able to pull this together. But again, the key was we were able to break this complex project into multiple smaller logical units and give it to the teams who are in different locations. Since it was a small logical unit and it had its own deliverable, it was very easy for us to know, set their priority, set their goals, and also track the progress. If I have to tell them, like, hey, it's a massive application, it has around 70, 80 modules, and it's going to take 2 years, and they're going to faint. And especially I hired new engineers who are ramping on eBay, right? So we actually simplified the problem for them, simplified the user story for them, and given them the context, and given them this playground for them to learn and play and then output. I hope I answered, but I'm not sure the whole intention of that question. But I just elaborated on how we went and executed.
Yeah, I think just how to make a start, and I think establishing a process first and say we're gonna just sort of follow this process and see where that takes us seems like a good place to start. So you've illuminated for us like some of your process, but as far as like tracking progress, we have a couple of questions here from Babita. And they would like to know, like, how did you improve quality? And maybe also you could speak to how you knew you were improving quality. Is it just related to the velocity, or you could speak to that, and any metric that was used to measure that quality?
So again, quality has, like, to me it's more of a generic term. How we measure our quality is by building that automated pipeline, and the by part of that is like our deployment frequency and lead time to change. So unless you have built in a quality code or a quality pipeline, it's going to be very difficult for you to push a change, especially an application like eBay, to release that change in a couple of hours. So quality was definitely the key thing in this theme, which is really hidden, in the presentation, to enable the metrics which I talked about. Again, we have actually adapted to the shift left paradigm and test driven development. So any change is carefully thought, what kind of unit test we have to write, what kind of integration we have to write, what kind of service level acceptance we need to make, and how we can actually tie that back to the use cases or the test plan we have written, and how they can actually run very lightly in the pipeline. And also we have developed sophisticated deployment tools where we test, let's say, we have like 10 steps to pass. Imagine like an assembly line where your process check goes from one assembly line stop to another, and it passes your quality metrics. Then the final line, which is in production, we do have like some alerts configured. Let's say, for example, when we roll, if there is any new anomaly detected, we immediately roll back. We don't really push that change to production. Similarly, we actually develop the features under a configuration. So we don't really enable that while we are rolling out the code. We actually disable that feature. We roll out to the production, and then we test in a smaller set of traffic, and then we enable it to all the users. So without quality, I don't think we would have been able to achieve a pipeline which can run within hours. So quality is definitely the center of this whole migration.
That's so interesting. It's, I'm a developer and I do communications for women who code. So it's really quite scientific, no, to remove the distractions, remove the other things you could be looking at and pay attention just to the thing that you're testing and focusing on. It's super interesting. We have another question here from Joanne. And they would like to know, do you have any advice on preventing newer code base from deteriorating to the point where it becomes legacy code when a rewrite is necessary?
Oh, this is definitely one of my favorite question. This is what I always post to my lead architects. Hey, we cannot really do another massive migration to know in the newer code base to maintain its sanity, right? So it should be like day to day thing. It should be like no, the more disciplined or a habit which we built over the period. How again, I do not have definitely the silver bullet found, but I can share some of the practices what we have started doing. With along the journey, what we learned is dealing with smaller things is going to be really easier, right? So what we started enforcing is, hey, you have to create a PR within only this many lines, and which makes the code reviewer to review the code easily, and also which makes the person who's authoring the code to think through the test cases, the unit test, and whatnot in a more deeper way. So we started dealing with small, and also we do have like a lot of like design reviews. We started doing ADRs where we document design decisions, and also once the code evolved, we kind of try to go back and see, hey, whatever the design pattern we have established, is it still holding good, and how we can rewrite or retrofit that implementation so that it actually addresses the future evolving need. Again, one thing we have still not figured out how we are going to do is how we can really dedicate time, or how we can periodically go back to these retros fit of this code so that we can maintain the sanity. But right now, it's more of like bells and whistles built in around our quality pipeline, where whenever it suffers, we know that there is something really went wrong with the code, which didn't implement correctly, or not added with the tests, right? So we get those signals, but definitely there is a way to go for us in order to build the muscle of going back and retrofitting and rewriting the code, not waiting for a project called migration.
So then how do you as a developer, or how did your team, but like what advice would you give for developers for striking that balance between maintaining existing functionality, right, and introducing new features while modernizing legacy code? It's like a lot to do at once, right? So what kind of best practices or tips could you give for striking that balance if someone else has this kind of project?
So again, it's a lot of the time, you as a developer, what you believe in matters a lot than we trying to enforce something. I do believe in like developers having pride in their deliverables. Developers deliverable is nothing but code, right? So you have to have a pride in what you deliver. We do have checks and balances in place, like linting, like a lot of PR builders, and we enforce some checks while before you commit. But we can actually come around with it, right? You can really do the bare minimum and get away with it. To me, I am more into like how I can really bring in that culture, how I can embrace the culture within the developers, where they feel really good about adding doing documentation, adding really good note when it comes to dealing with use cases. And also one another thing which we really helped us, we started creating a lot of playbooks. So basically we have like playbooks created for different patterns within the module. For example, there is a module which uses like configurations, so we do have examples, do this, don't do that, right? So we do have guidelines and playbooks created for developers who can refer and build, so that they don't really deviate from established patterns. And we do have a deeper level conversation with the design reviews, where we do scrutinize, why are you doing this, why not this, why not that, how are you going to evolve this, how are you going to scale this. Oftentimes, at least at eBay, the problem statement starts very simple, and it just gets complicated because of its scale, right? So we any solution we come up with, we want to really make sure it is actually scalable for our needs.
Yeah, I really love what you're saying, because something we talk a lot about is it's important to upskill your technical skills, right? But also something you're gesturing toward are these really important soft skills: communication, collaboration, not confrontation, but the ability to have like these kind of crucial, brave conversations if needed, right? Integrity, these, those sorts of things. So it seems like a really important part of this process. Janice has a question about, can you share how you were able to handle data migration and backward compatibility with existing systems linked to legacy before?
Oh, wonderful question. Yes, the first and foremost thing what we actually established as a guiding principle was not to disturb any backward compatibility and not to lose any data, because it's super critical for our application, right? As I said, it's a very critical application, and also it's very sensitive in nature. So availability is a number one priority for us. So while doing the migration, the first 3 months, actually we built a lot of like foundational elements just to take care of this data migration and backward compatibility. As I said in the presentation, the data actually kept intact, and which was actually used to buy the legacy system as well as the new system. So what we did was we took the data from the legacy system, and we as is we pumped the same data to the newer stack. So basically the older system and the newer system actually use the same legacy data, but then the we actually made sure we rewrite the newer stack using the same data without offending the contracts, but in a newer way, right? More modularized, more modern, more maintainable, more testable. But the end user is not going to change. For example, if we track some user behavior, and we drop some tags, they are all same. But what additionally we can do, how differently we can implement, is what we focused on as a first step. That actually opened up a lot of opportunity for us to know and enhance this later. If we try to do everything at one go, we would have miserably failed, because the complexity is huge and we are actually adding more variables to the equation which you're trying to solve. Then technically it's going to take more time, right? So we kept our variables minimum, and because our mission was well defined, first migrate to a newer stack and slowly optimize and slowly get rid of the legacyness what you have in the systems which are a little external to you. So yeah, that's how we addressed it.
I think my favorite part of your whole presentation is just how illuminated you are talking about this. You can see how passionate you are about it and how much you enjoy the topic. And for you, what was your favorite part of the whole process, or what was the most satisfying thing? Or, you go to bed at night, you're like, that was great. I'm super proud of that part of it.
So this whole modernization journey is actually more than 2 years for us, and we actually had multiple pitches to the leadership board, where we wanted to migrate it as a 2 year journey or multiple year journey. But finally, this project got approved the minute we said we are going to do it in a progressive way. We were able to convince the leaderships, hey, we are going to just getting into 10% of this migration, we are going to unlock the velocity. We're going to unlock the benefits, what we are actually vouching for end of the migration. So that definitely fascinated me. And today I am actually, we completed the migration and we have enabled the different platforms with the one single service. And right now, eBay is running on that platform. So I felt very proud and I happened to be part of that. And my entire team is really proud of that as well, because it was a decade old legacy code, and definitely everybody dared to touch, but we were able to deal with it and we were able to complete it and also unlock the benefit, and we were able to witness that in eyes, right? When I joined this team, it was like 30 days. It took like a month to deploy any change, but right now you can actually deploy multiple changes in a given day.
That's incredible. Congratulations. And it's always really satisfying when you can see your work live online and you know it's making a user experience better, right? And how much work that it took, which is incredible. So congratulations. We just have about a minute left. Are there any kind of final thoughts, any final tips or takeaways that you would give to the members if they have legacy code and they want to modernize their apps that they could leave with?
So basically, what I learned throughout this journey is, you can't really give up on any complex problem. You have to try to attack it from different angles and also simplify the problem, right? If you don't simplify, you won't really find the opportunity to incrementally solve the problem, because when the problem is very complicated, then you might think that solution is also going to be complicated. When you start simplifying the problem, then the solution is going to be also simplified. So that is what I learned throughout the year. But when I just put together, it was a massive migration. It took like multiple years for us. So we did solve the complexity of it. It was a complex problem. But when we zoomed into those smaller chunks, it actually seemed very seamless to us to unlock. Especially in this modern world, especially things are moving much faster. We have to adapt to these different execution strategies when it comes to doing anything massive. It may not be only migration, right? Even a big project, even delivering a feature to a customer. I would actually go about thinking how I can incrementally deliver customer value is going to be the key. So how you can incrementally unlock value to a customer is would be the takeaway for me.
I think it's a good just general life lesson, though. Just like do one thing at a time that you can actually solve. I think it's great. Thank you so much for your time that you've given us in this amazing presentation. Congratulations again on completing your project.
Thank you. I definitely enjoy the time, and I hope like all the audiences will have like a very wonderful day today watching the different topics and talks.